from MDAs in the House. Honorable Minister, sir, allow me also to recognize in the House the development partners. They do a great job for us in this struggle. And allow me in a special way to recognize the high-ranking officer of the UN, Madame Namondo Susan Ngongi. She's in the House, the United Nations Resident Coordinator. Madame, stand up for recognition. We want to see you. There she is. Allow me also to recognize Mr. Plani, who is representing the UNDP resident representative here, and his staff, UNDP staff present in the House, kindly stand up for recognition. Honorable Minister, allow me also to recognize in the House a team from the ILO, International Labour Organization. Stephen is here. And these are doing a lot of work, Honorable Minister, to mainstream labor and employment in the planning process. And now they are saying it must go down to the local government. All the other development partners in the House, you are most welcome. Honorable Minister, allow me also to recognize a population icon in the country, who is none other than Dr. Jotham Musinguzi. He is retired, but not tired. He's still working. With the think tank you set up, he's still active. So, ladies and gentlemen, you are all most welcome. As I said in the beginning, ensure you feel here. Don't fill your offices. You might have had issues, but now fill office of the President Hall so that we can deliver what has brought us here. Honorable Minister and everybody in the House, you must agree that we've made a lot of commitments. When you look at our vision 2040, we make a lot of commitments there. When you look at the NDPs we've made a lot of commitments. And now allow me to draw you to our theme before I invite the next speaker. Sustainable industrialization for inclusive growth, employment, and wealth creation. That is where we are. How much have we achieved so far in industrialization and others? What have we done? Have we done it right? What are the best practices to take home? And the rest. So, before I invite the next speaker, may I recognize the permanent secretaries who are in the House. The permanent secretaries who are in the House, if you are seated somewhere and my eye cannot catch you, kindly. Yes, Thank you so much. I can see Mr. Bageya, PS Works. I can see Mr. Kasande. He's also in the House. And as we wait for others to come, allow me now to invite the person who is going to set ground. And as he comes, please take a note of this statement. It is our guiding statement. Our minister, since his appointment, he has moved with a slogan or a catchy word: planning to inform budgeting. Planning to inform budgeting. Not budgeting to inform. That is his catchword. So wherever you are engaging in these planning things, plan to inform budgeting. Don't budget to inform planning. So may I invite now the Executive Director of the National Planning Authority to set the stage before we dive into the deep waters. Charles Sorenyo Jok, Honorable, you are welcome.
the Honorable Minister of State, Minister of Planning and Economic Development, in charge planning, the Honorable Amos Rugolobi, already in the House, the Head of Service and Secretary to Cabinet, the permanent secretaries that have already arrived and are present. Among us is also our special guests, whom I am not afraid to introduce. They are special in a sense that as National Planning Authority, we are in the process of having our board being reconstituted, and so they have already been vetted by the August House, and some of them are here present. Kindly allow me just to ask them to stand up for recognition. I have in the House Dr. Ivan, who may be, or who will be transiting from the former board to the new board. I have the Honorable Stephen Mokitale. As far as I'm concerned, I think those are the two that have been able to make it here. But as and when the rest come, we will be happy to introduce them to you. The UN Resident Coordinator, the UNDP rep, representatives of ministries, departments, and agencies in this regard, the planners, our development partners, and all the colleagues from the development world, the heads of NGOs and civil society organizations present, our colleagues, the leaders from the private sector, the distinguished guests, all the NPA staff here present, the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. I take this exceptional honor and opportunity to welcome you all to this National Development Plan 4 Planning Conference, and indeed thank you for sparing your time to attend in person. So we may clap for ourselves. This conference, like you will hear later on, is one of the key milestones in the NDP4 roadmap, and therefore it takes us towards the delivery of the final National Development Plan 4. Your presence, therefore, means a lot to not just us as National Planning Authority, but to the country Uganda for the role you play in planning. Effective development planning is vital for Uganda's development as clearly articulated in our Constitution. The NPA Act, but also the National Planning Authority Planning Regulations 2018, and indeed well highlighted in the Comprehensive National Development Planning Framework. This ensures that the national goals are met with precision and foresight. That's all about planning. We plan for the future. As you are already aware, the third National Development Plan 3, which was for 2020-21 to 2024-25, expires in June 2025. And under Section 8 subsection 1 and 2, B of the National Planning Act. It is required, NPA is required to produce a national development plan that sets out the macroeconomic framework based on the government policies and the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility provided for by the Public Finance and Management Act as amended of 2015. Accordingly, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with the National Planning Authority, embarked on a process of preparing the fourth National Development Plan, which will run from 2025-26 to 2029-2030, which will be the successor plan to our NDP3. This NDP4 will guide the national budget for financial year 2025-26 and the other decentralized plans, as you all do know. You will be guided on how you will develop your strategic plans as agencies and institutions of government, as well as the local governments in producing your local government decentralized development plans, respectively. I'm therefore happy to inform you that the NDP for strategic direction for 2025-26 to 2029-2030 was already approved by Cabinet. This strategic direction was informed by a number of things, among which included His Excellency the President's strategic guidance, the government's strategy for growing the economy tenfold in a transformative, inclusive, and sustainable manner, but also Uganda's socio-economic and the political history. Our Vision 2040 informed what we have done or what was approved in the strategic direction, as well as the international commitments, for instance, on the Sustainable Development Goals, Africa Agenda 2063, the East African Vision 2050, results as well of the midterm review of the NDP3, including the end-term evaluation of NDP 1 and 2. And of course, what we also took note of was the emerging issues and the national priorities from the stakeholder engagements that we held, among others. It was also further informed by a number of specific consultations. Notable among them was our Chankwanzi retreat. As National Planning Authority, we retreated to Chankwanzi last year in May, and where we received presentations from experts from both the public and the private sector. The NDP for strategic direction was shared widely with all of you. However, of course, as you will be noting, we will still have some time today to make a presentation on this for your further appreciation and information. The purpose of this National Planning Conference is to officially communicate the NDP for strategic direction, as I have already referred to, but also in-depth deal with issues around the planning call circular and to officially, therefore, kickstart the processes of planning at the decentralized level. The theme of the conference is very much in line with the NDP4 theme, and that is sustainable industrialization for inclusive growth, employment, and wealth creation. While I was making my speech, I had not realized the arrival of the Permanent Secretary and the Secretary to the Treasury, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Let's join hands and welcome him. During today's program, we shall be honored to hear from and interact with, of course, our Honorable Minister, Amos Lugolobi, our Minister in charge planning, on some of the key issues that I have touched on. Additionally, we shall also be honored to receive insightful remarks from the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, who is already the House as I've just introduced. And we will also be receiving remarks from the head of the service, who's right here seated in front. Thereafter, our team shall guide us on how we will proceed following the day's program. Once again, I really wish to extend my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you for your dedication to engage, lead, and contribute to the achievement of Uganda's development agenda through both consultative and pragmatic planning. I am looking forward to having a great interaction with you in today's proceedings, and I wish to congratulate the National Planning Authority for this very key achievement of successfully organizing the National Planning Conference. Let's clap for them. Before I invite the next speaker, allow me to bring to you the apologies from the Executive Director, National Planning Authority, Dr. Joseph Muvawala, who was unable to be here with us on this very important occasion, but had to travel out of the country on similar important assignments where under the Education Policy Review Commission, they had to travel to Vietnam to understudy and benchmark on the Vietnam education system. So I wish to tender his apologies. Colleagues, as I conclude, I wish therefore to once again thank all of you who have come in all of your respective numbers, and we are very delighted as National Planning Authority that this planning conference, by the way, the first of its kind, and I want to thank the Minister of Finance for now facilitating the National Planning Authority to be able to also hold the planning conferences. We are very familiar with the budget conferences, but the planning conferences, this is just the first of its kind. So we thank you very much, PSST. On that note, therefore, you will permit me to proceed to invite to the podium the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, who's here upcoming, to make his remarks. Most welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in charge of planning, honorable members of Parliament present, the head of public service of the Republic of Uganda, colleagues, PSs, and other government officers in your respective capacities, our development partners, the private sector, and civil society, among other non-state actors, I greet all of you and send you regards from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. I thank you, first of all, for attending in big numbers the first of its kind, this conference, as we plan and strategize for Uganda's development. I thank the National Planning Authority and other development stakeholders that we have been working with towards Uganda's development, and in particular for organizing this conference. Uganda's development trajectory, as we all are aware, is clearly articulated in our Vision 2040. And the Cabinet, as the Deputy ED of NP has told you, in March this year, approved the strategic direction of the 4th National Development Plan. And the thrust of that plan is the 10-fold economic growth strategy for Uganda. Government aims to achieve double-digit economic growth during the NDP4, whose planning conference we are holding here today. During this planning cycle, however, there is need to ensure that our development plans are grounded in the actual fundamentals, availability of resources to prevent the pitfalls of overambitious projections and underfunded priorities. In Uganda, we have that very disturbing terminology, unfunded priorities. If something is a priority, how can it be unfunded or underfunded? It all starts with planning. By aligning our resource allocations with the realistic revenue forecasts and existing obligations, we are likely to maintain financial stability, and the keyword here is maintaining. Because we are financially stable, we have to maintain it, but also enhance the fiscal policy credibility by avoiding disruptive budget shortfalls, which we have faced in NDP 3, mainly because of the intervening shocks. The COVID-19 coincided with approval of NDP 3. The President signed the forwarding page of NDP 3 in lockdown. And since then, we've been having these issues of budget shortfalls. We hope really at the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development that we are going to have all of these assumptions catered for as we plan. Most importantly, we need to ensure that NDP4 is fiscally realistic and effectively allocating resources, where we have introduced now the concept of indicative planning figures. indicative planning figures have been introduced, taking into consideration all of the government commitments that are spilling over into NDP4 period, those which we have inherited from the previous plans. These figures will serve as a guide for all programs when developing their plans during that, so that we can ensure that the existing financial commitments crossing to the next plan period are prioritized alongside the new priorities. These figures also take into account government's focus areas to achieve the intended tenfold growth by 2040. The details of these figures are as highlighted in the planning call circular, and as will be guided further by my ministry and NPA, we should really adhere to them. When it comes to the status of these commitments, the running commitments, I should tell you that our current fiscal landscape has significant number of ongoing commitments in very critical areas, and these will inevitably spill into the NDP4 period, amounting to a tune of 358.87 trillion shillings. The NDP4 numbers are going to be given to you. The total requirement to deliver this plan currently stands at 413.206 trillion shillings in the 5 years. But of these, we have a number of projects, very strategic projects, right from our standard gauge railway, the oil commitments we are doing to get our oil out of the ground, where we are doing so well. As far as the financing is concerned, we need to carry them forward because they are going to get in, among others. There are so many. On this, we should note the following commitments. The wage, statutory wage commitments. We have non-wage employee benefits as we plan, NSSF, pension, gratuity, contributions, operational government fixed costs, things like paying for utilities, paying for IT, rent, local government grants, the critical subventions must have a first call on the resource. Then we have the multi-year commitments of the ongoing projects, some of which I've mentioned. The core ones, His Excellency the President has continuously communicated them to the country. In the area of transport, integrated transport, the SGR is now a fundamental. There are no more arguments about it. We are doing it, and we are starting very soon. We're at the tail end of the negotiations and all other required prior actions with the contractors and so on. Beginning next financial year, we are going to be rolling out. We have various key road infrastructure, Kampala-Jinja Expressway, the ones we are also doing, the MPG Kampala Expressway. We have planned ones on Bombo Kampala Expressway. We have the Kampala flyovers and fixing the first trains around the city so that we can get out of this chaos of moving around, of the mobility and so on. All these are spilling over into, they were planned and they're going to spill over. There are a number of commitments. It is important to note that these commitments form the backbone of our national development efforts and cannot be neglected in favor of new priorities. Our fiscal responsibility demands that we first ensure the completion and continuity of these projects to maintain stability and progress in our development agenda. So the expectation is from us to the programs as well as the ministries, departments, and agencies of government are as follows. Given the tight fiscal situation we must work with, because there must be a budget constraint, it is expected that while using the indicative planning figures, all programs should adopt a prudent approach to their planning without necessarily negating on their development ambition. And some of the expectations are the following. Number one, prioritize the ongoing commitments. They must have the first call on the development budget. The programs must first allocate sufficient resources to cover all of the ongoing projects. I saw here my good friend in works and transport. Mzee Waiso is there. Priority number one, the ongoing ones. SGR must be ticked first, and all those other projects which we are working on with you. And then the financial commitments that are likely to spill over into NDP4 period should also be catered for. And this will ensure that there are no disruptions or setbacks in project implementation or any shortfalls pertaining to statutory commitments. Number two, ensure realistic planning and budgeting. The programs and MDAs should develop realistic plans that align with the IPFs provided. Overestimating resources or underestimating costs will lead to inefficiencies and potential budget shortfalls, which necessitate those things which really everybody detests, but no one is working to solve. We must now commit to address them so that we strengthen our budget credibility. The third one is the strategic addition of new priorities. Once the ongoing commitments are adequately catered for, programs should identify and incorporate new priorities in line with the 10-fold growth strategy. Please, going forward in the next 5 years, Uganda is focusing on getting the economy to grow much faster than we have grown in the past decade. And to do so, our strategy is simple, it's a strategy of ATMs. After the fundamentals we have talked about, the ATMs come into play. The ATMs are what? Agro-industrialization. Number one. Tourism development. Number two. Mineral development, including oil and gas. Number three. And then science, technology, and innovation, including IT. Number four. That's where we are going to focus as far as driving growth is concerned. The experts have done all the analysis. The numbers they are going to be presented to you. Uganda is going to focus on ATMs. Those are the areas which are going to mint money for us going forward. And they shouldn't be compromised in any of the new priorities we put in the plans and the budget. But these should be selected based on their potential impact within those programs, the various interventions to do as we select them in agro-industry. These should be based on their impact, alignment with the national goals, but also the feasibility within which we can deliver them in the constrained budget. The fourth area I would request our program leaders and the ministries in the government to focus on, as well as local governments, is the development of detailed PIAPs, what we call Program Implementation Action Plans. We must develop them. These are going to show us how we should allocate resources based on the provided IPFs. They should be in a position, these PIAPs, to demonstrate clearly how the existing commitments and new priorities have been catered for. These PIAPs are very smart. You know, NDP 3 started on a wrong note. We were not ready with the PIAPs. A good plan without a clear implementation plan. How we are going to deliver each program, complete with a Gantt chart for each of them. We learned that lesson. We have been working to catch up under NDP 3. NDP 4, we must start with a clear implementation plan, action plan for each program. The fifth and the last one is effective collaboration and coordination in government, as well as with our development partners. We must have intra and inter-program collaboration and coordination so that we maximize resource utilization and avoid duplication of effort. NDP 4 is going to be implemented with a clear adherence to all government approach. The whole government approach must go beyond just talking about it. We have started well. Now we are getting there. Mindsets are changing. Change management has been effective. The National Planning Authority, when they were starting, everybody was saying to hell with the programs. I want my money. Me, this sector. But your sector cannot deliver if others have not delivered. You will not deliver agriculture without water, without roads, without security, so how do we sit and synergize? We must do this together. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on the detailed development of our NDP 4, our commitment as Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and by extension as Government of Uganda, to prudent and effective planning has never been more critical. The introduction of the indicative planning figures is a step towards ensuring that we prioritize our limited resources efficiently, safeguard ongoing commitments, while strategically taking on new priorities. Let us approach this planning period with a sense of responsibility, collaboration, and innovation to overcome the fiscal constraints and to achieve our national development objectives. I thank you very much for your attention and wish you very productive deliberations.
May we give another stronger round of applause to the Permanent Secretary. You know, when you are managing money, you sit on a hot plate. You create many enemies and fewer friends. PS, thank you so much for the work so far. Well done. Allow me now to invite the Executive Director of NPA to come back on the podium and invite the next speaker.
Thank you very much. Mine this time is a very simple one. Is to invite the head of service to give us her remarks on a topic: measures to improve service delivery within the programmatic approach during the implementation of NDP4. That is the topic, and she's going to speak to it. Thank you. You're most welcome, Madam Lucy Nashobe. Let's welcome her with a loud hand clap.
Thank you. Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in charge of planning. Permanent Secretary is present. I don't know whether there are any MPs present. If they are there, I recognize you. Development partners, representative of the EDNPA, heads of various agencies, representatives from various local governments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today to address you. And I would like to begin by welcoming you all. Thank you for coming in big numbers. Your coming in big numbers shows the importance you attach to planning and development. Secondly, I would like to thank the National Planning Authority, together with all the other stakeholders, for organizing this planning conference, the first of its kind. Thank you very much, ED. I also want to thank them for the time and effort that they have put in developing the NDP4. Today we embark on a critical journey as we officially launch and communicate the strategic direction of the NDP4. This strategic plan will guide us in our collective efforts to steer Uganda towards sustainable industrialization, inclusive growth, employment, and wealth creation. Our journey forward will be anchored on a program-based budget approach, which marks a transformative step in our national planning and budgeting processes. It is worth to note that NDP4 aims at building on the successes and the lessons learned from the previous national development plans. And it focuses on key priority areas such as industrialization, human capital development, infrastructure development, governance and security, and sustainable use of our natural resources. And our goal is to create a more resilient and inclusive economy that benefits all Ugandans. As we officially kickstart the decentralized level planning processes, it is imperative that we reflect on how to improve service delivery during the implementation of the NDP4. And I do believe this could be the reason as to why I was requested to talk about how we can better or how we can improve service delivery within the programmatic approach during the NDP4 period. So I'll start by letting you know what is service delivery. Service delivery refers to a relationship between policymakers, service providers, and consumers of those services. It is a mechanism used by an organization to meet the needs and aspirations of the people it is meant to serve. And failure to meet the service delivery means you have lost credibility on your part. And I would like you to know that at the center of service delivery is accountability. When we talk of accountability, we talk of value for money, we talk of efficient and effective use of resources, we talk of improved communication, we talk of good decision-making processes, name it. However, there are challenges that hinder the improved service delivery, and I would like to mention some of these challenges. On top of the list is resource constraint. Limited financial resources pose a significant challenge. There is therefore need to prioritize and efficiently allocate funds in more critical areas than ever before. The next challenge is capacity gaps. Inadequate skills and capacities within the public sector can impede effective implementation of development programs. There is therefore need for continuous capacity building within the public service. Another very big challenge is the challenge of corruption and inefficiency. Corruption and bureaucratic ineffectiveness undermine service delivery. Strengthening accountability and transparency mechanisms is vital if we are to better our services. Then we have infrastructure deficits. Insufficient infrastructure, particularly in the rural areas, hampers the access to essential services, and investment in infrastructure development is crucial if we are to improve service delivery. Technological advancement is another challenge. The rapid pace of technological change requires us to continuously update our systems and processes in order to leverage on new opportunities and improve our service delivery. We also have the challenge of coordination and integration. Effective coordination and integration of efforts across different sectors of government and levels of government remain a challenge. A holistic approach is needed to ensure synergies and avoid duplication of roles. Of course, we have other challenges like incompetent leadership. You all know what that means. If you have an incompetent leader in your ministries, you do have them there, and what challenges they pose to you in delivering services. Then we have political interference and the politicization of issues. That is also another very big challenge to delivering services. We have the challenge of population growth. We have the challenge of lack of citizen awareness, to mention but a few. How can we therefore improve service delivery? One, we need to strengthen institutional capacities. We need to strengthen our institutions in the public service. We need to invest in training and capacity building programs for our public servants. To the contrary, every time there's a budget cut, they look at training. It's the training funds that suffer. And I don't know, PSST has gone away, but I think he's the biggest culprit on this. He takes training as a luxury, but training and developing capacity is #1 priority if we are to improve service delivery. We need to promote a culture of professionalism, integrity, and accountability within our institutions, such that we can build the public trust and confidence. We need to enhance public-private partnerships. Collaborations between the public and the private sectors is crucial for the successful implementation of NDP4. We must foster an enabling environment that encourages private sector participation in development initiatives. And by leveraging on the expertise and resources of the private sector, we can drive innovations, enhance efficiency, and improve service delivery across the various sectors in government. We need to leverage on technology and innovation. The use of technology and innovation is key driver of improved service delivery. We must embrace digital transformation and adopt modern technologies to streamline our processes, reduce on the bureaucratic ineffectiveness, and therefore improve on the transparency. E-governance platforms, data analytics, and mobile applications can significantly improve access to service delivery and ensure timely delivery to our citizens. We need to promote inclusive planning and participation. Inclusive planning and participation are fundamental to the success of NDP4. We must engage all stakeholders, including local communities, the women, the youth, the marginalized groups in the planning and decision-making processes. And this will help us to ensure that development initiatives are responsive to the needs and aspirations of all Ugandans, leading to a more equitable and sustainable outcomes. We need to ensure efficient resource utilization. Effective service delivery requires efficient utilization of resources. We must adopt prudent financial management practices, prioritize projects that offer the highest value for money, and eliminate waste and corruption. Transparent budgeting is a requirement, and rigorous monitoring and evaluation mechanisms will also help to ensure that resources that are allocated are utilized effectively to achieve the desired outcomes. We need to strengthen monitoring and evaluation. A robust monitoring and evaluation framework is essential for tracking progress and ensuring accountability. We must establish clear performance indicators and regularly assess the impact of our initiatives and activities and make a data-driven decisions to address challenges and optimize service delivery. And we need continuous feedbacks which should loop into our activities and enable us to learn and adopt and improve on our strategies. There is a need to build resilience and sustainability. As we pursue the industrialization, we must prioritize sustainability and resilience. This involves adopting environmentally friendly practices and ensuring that as we develop, our efforts don't compromise the well-being of the future generations. Building resilient infrastructure and systems will help us with withstand and disrupt and avoid disruptions and shocks that accrue from lack of observing environmental friendly procedures. Of course, we need to break down the silos. We need to embrace the whole of government approach. We need to develop an effective performance management system to monitor the performance of our staff and be able to appropriately reward or sanction where it is demanded. We need to let the politicians off the lane. They should have their eyes on, but their hands should be off the public service. We need to develop an enforcement of the public service delivery standards. And this is critical because we need to know how we can benchmark. If we have the standards, we are able to benchmark and monitor and therefore remain accountable to our citizens. We need to ensure the functionality of the program approach. I know they say we are under a programmatic-based approach, but the question is it working? Are we really under a program-based budget approach? Because I see people fighting for funds. Everyone wants to put they don't look at the program, but they are looking at the money. What is my take on the money? But not what is my contribution to the program. And we have been seeing ministries fighting each other over a program. And the whole reason they are fighting is because of the money allocations. I now want to leave you questions as NPA. And the first question I want to leave you with, why don't you cut the size of your coat according to the size of the cloth you have? That is question number one to you, NPA, the planner. Question number two. You said it here yourself that planning informs budgeting. So I am asking you, if planning is informing budgeting, are we going to see less of the supplementary budgets going forward? And then, this is now my hope. I want to hope that the budget call circular that will be issued for the year 25-26 will be based on the planning call circular that will be issued for the year 25-26 and not the vice versa. So as I conclude, I would like to point out that the National Development Program 4 presents us with a unique opportunity to shape Uganda's future by focusing on improving service delivery. We can create a conducive environment for sustainable growth. Let us work together leveraging on our collective strengths and resources to realize our shared vision of a prosperous and inclusive Uganda. I want to thank you all, and I wish you a productive and successful conference. Thank you.
Kindly once again put your hands together in appreciating the insights that we have shared and received from the head of service. Of course, we thank her for the questions that she has left with the National Planning Authority. We will be answering this as we go along. But very quickly, head of service, in terms of planning, we necessarily shall not plan just strictly in accordance with what is available. The planning function allows the country to have aspirations that go beyond necessarily what is available. Why? When we plan, we expect that the sources of financing will come first and foremost from the government. Secondly, we have our private sector. Even when you look at the structure of financing of the plan, the private sector has a very significant contribution to make. So that is why usually there will be a slight variation between the numbers in terms of the budget. I'm sure our Honorable Minister will say something more on this. And then planning to inform budgeting. I totally agree with you. This is what we are always trying to do on a daily. And lastly, you asked a question if the budget call circular for the financial year 2025-26 will be informed by the planning call circular for the same period. Actually, already what we are issuing today is what is going to inform the entire NDP4. While the budget call circular is issued annually, the planning call circular will be issued once for the life of the National Development Plan, and in this case, for the NDP4. It will guide the entire period of the 5 years. Thank you very much with those few clarifications, but also thank you once again for asking the hard questions, not just to NPA, but also to all of us here on issues of accountability, on measures to improve service delivery, and so on and so forth. Now, colleagues, now is the time for me to invite the minister, but before I do so, allow me to recognize the arrival of some very important guests who have joined us, and among them, according to the information I have, is none other than Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, who should be seated somewhere. Professor, shall you be seen and an appropriate seat be made available for you? Where is Professor? Unless he is stepped out. Professor Ephraim Kamuntu, I saw him somewhere, is currently, among others, the senior presidential advisor on the manifesto implementation. Thank you very much. Permit me now, therefore, to invite our chief guest, and who is none other than the Minister in charge planning, Honorable Amos Lugolobi. Karibuni sana. Clap for the guest.
Thank you so much, Mr. Acting ED. The Head of Public Service and Secretary to Cabinet, heads of delegations and development partners here present. A number of you were recognized earlier, I think save for the Deputy Head of UNFPA, who came in a little later. The permanent secretaries present, these were introduced earlier. Heads of various government agencies, representatives from the various local governments in very big numbers, and I think we need to congratulate ourselves for that achievement. I've not seen this conference hall full to capacity. I think this is the first time I'm seeing it full. I've been coming here several times. So thank you for showing interest in planning. So many people, as you know, do not support the concept of planning to inform budgeting, because the temptation normally is to run to where money is, so they run to the budget. They don't want to plan in order to spend. So I want to thank you so much for recognizing the importance of planning. And it is us planners to make sure that we promote the concept of planning in this country, because it is what will make us deliver our aspirations as contained in the Vision 2040 and in the Continental Agenda, which is our Vision 2063, and of course the Global Agenda 2030. So we need to plan in order to achieve those aspirations. Let me now take this opportunity to welcome you all and thank you for turning up to this NDP4 National Planning Conference. The conference has convened a number of stakeholders, as already introduced, ranging from the head of service, the permanent secretary, secretary to treasury, who has been here and made, the two of them, made very interesting statements and their messages to take home. Some of the permanent secretaries, all planners at both the MDA and local government levels, development partners and colleagues from the private sector, civil society, organizations, and the academia. I would like to thank NPA for organizing this event, which is a key milestone in the NDP4 formulation process and roadmap. Let's clap for NPA for putting this together. This conference officially kickstarts the decentralized planning process. We are taking the plan to you at program level, MDA level, and local government level. It should also be noted that the guidance of this conference also has implications to the operations of the development partners, the private sector, who may want to take interest in delivering some of the public goods, civil society organizations, and NGOs. As we may all be aware, the NDP3, which ran from 2020-21 to 2024-2025, expires in June 2025. And therefore, it means that legally, as per the NPA Act, the NPA Regulation, Section 8(1) and 2B, and the PFM Act, the Public Finance Management Act, the draft plan of NDP4 running from 2025, 2026 to 2029/2030 should be ready by July 2024. So we only have a few months to go, June and July, to make sure that we deliver this plan. So we do not have much time, and we need to move swiftly to deliver the plan within those 2 months. So the final plan should be ready by September 2024, because we need the time between August to September to secure the necessary approvals. And as you know, planning is an iterative process. During that time, we'll be making changes here and there, coming up with a very final document, and incorporating comments coming from our superiors, from cabinets, and from parliament. So we need this plan by September 2024 to inform the country's macroeconomic framework and budgeting processes for 2025-2026 and subsequent years as such. So the plan will also inform various country cooperation and assistance strategies for international organizations and bilateral and multinational agencies resident or operating in Uganda. The NDP4 is the fourth out of the 6 national development plans that are meant to deliver our Uganda Vision 2040. So the aspirations we have in our national vision are going to be delivered by these 6 national development plans. This being the 4th national development plan, we shall remain with the 2 development plans to deliver those aspirations. It is also the last plan to deliver the Global Agenda 2030 of the Sustainable Development Goals, and the first within the implementation of the government strategy for achievement of the 10-fold growth that the PSST was talking about earlier. Ladies and gentlemen, the NDP4 strategic direction was discussed and approved by Cabinet in March this year, 2024. So we have a direction against which we shall be doing the detailed planning. So the guiding principles upon which we are developing the plan have already been given. And they came through a heavily consultative process. The strategic direction speaks to His Excellency's, the President's strategic guidance. Some of you may recall His Excellency the President's remarks on 24th May 2021 while opening the 11th Parliament, where he emphasized the government focus turning to creating wealth, jobs and income, having now laid the foundation for building roads. We have road networks across the country. We may not have all the roads that we need, but we have something now in place which we can leverage to plan for the delivery of wealth creation in the country. So we have laid the foundation by building roads. We have built a number of hospitals and health centers. We have built a number of schools. These days you cannot claim that children have nowhere to go to study. We have built a number of water sources and other public services. So we have to leverage these now to deliver a prosperous country. So we have, in other words, the necessary foundation upon which to plan for accelerated growth in the country. So particularly it is in line with value addition
that philosophy I just described. Value addition is going to be emphasized. The knowledge economy and science, technology, and innovation are going to be emphasized. Investment in high-speed rail. This high-speed rail, the SGR, is so crucial. The other day, we had an international meeting, and I met the Minister of Finance from Tanzania. And he told me that the SGR now from that to 4 days will now take, that is a huge saving. And his main worry was actually Sabagea, that once he has delivered the cargo at Mwanza,